So today I'm going to teach you guys a trick on how to use Thinkorswim, which has a really cool function that allows you to have a real-time data connection to an Excel spreadsheet that you can therefore take that Excel spreadsheet and utilize that as some kind of automation for your own risk management. You can do risk and reward. You can do all kinds of stuff. I have so many little tools built into my main spreadsheet that I use when I trade. Let me get some water real quick. So open up Excel and open up Thinkorswim. That's the only thing you need to do. It's automatic. There'll be if you go into the settings in Excel, when you do have Thinkorswim open, in the add-ins portion of Excel, you will see if you go to File, Options, and Thinkorswim is open and Excel is open, you will see that there is an add-in that's automatically opened up called tos.rtd. If you don't see this, it won't work. It should be automated. You don't have to do anything with modern version of Excel. It's just automated. Okay. So this is checked. It's called tos.rtd. There you go. Just double checking that it'll work. Now, there's a couple of ways to do this, but I'll teach you the syntax. If you go to the main window or Thinkorswim, if you go up into the top right, and you go to like anything, let me find like a random chart here. Or actually, if you go to like Market Watch tab, it's a great example. I'll just click it on here. I'm not going to dox my own account number. But you go here, right? So if you go to the main window and go to the Market Watch tab, create yourself a little watch list like this. Just type in some symbols and you're okay. After that, you're going to go all the way to the right, okay? And you're going to see there's little hash marks right here. It's going to be this middle one right here. Click that guy right there. And again, you can change whatever parameters you want. You can click the gear and you can start adding whatever in the customization that you want. Tons of stuff, indicators, anything you have in Thinkorswim, you can export that data now to a spreadsheet. Create a tool, create a calculation, create a strategy, whatever. You can have a lot of this data exported. So we're just going to do the native things. And I have like a little watch, let's say, made with 52-week lows and the highs and the opens and change and net change, et cetera. After you created like a watch list in this market watch, go ahead and click those three little hash marks right there. And then something will pop up that says export. Scroll down to export, and then it has to file, to Microsoft Excel, to calc, and those are your options. Just click Excel. A little pop-up will say, the paste the live data in this page, go to Excel and paste it. It just copied to your Microsoft clipboard or your what they call it, the clipboard or whatever. Okay. Go to any cell, Control V. Look at that. Easy as pie. I've got real-time streaming data from Thinkorswim into a spreadsheet from here. So from here, you can now manipulate the data. I can say like equals if, as an if statement, IBM is greater than, okay, let's say like, for instance, let's say like, target. Maybe you have some way to do a target and you say, I'm going to have a target that I'm going to short IBM off of 130. Okay, so let's make an if statement. If the last price is is greater than or equal to my target, then I'm going to put the word short here or else long or else not short. Okay. And that's the syntax for an if statement. Equals if, and just take, pause the video. And that's it. It's if a condition is true, put the letters that are in quotes. If not true, put the letters that are not. And then easy as that. Not short yet. How about this? Not short yet. And there you go. And so you can start automating to your, your own infinite cleverness by creating tools that you want like that. Okay. So I'm linking real-time data from Thinkorswim into my spreadsheet. And let's just say, just as a fun trigger, let's see what happens if this becomes 131. Look at that. It triggered my thing to now tell me to short. I'm going to hit Control Z to undo that last move so that the syntax doesn't disappear from the Thinkorswim. So now I've created a profit target that I can come and design every day, not short yet, right? And so I can put in a stop if I have a rule that whatever my target is. And anytime I put in like a number that I manually control, I like to give it like a text color to know that it's an input. And I like to even go up here to the borders and put a border around it so I know I can input something. And then I like to make it bold just so I know it's an input. If it's something I don't want to change, a good practice is to make it gray, to remind myself not to change that field. So now, like when you come back and revisit this later, you can kind of see that you have a target you put in for this stock, right? And let's repeat the process here. This is just good coding practice, right? Center these. And now I've created something where I can input a stock, input a target, and then create a rule that I don't change. Okay, you'll see how I did that? Pretty easy. Okay. And then, of course, gray out the things you don't want to manipulate, just so that you teach yourself that that's automated. Inputs, nice green box. Even give it some color if you want, like a light gray color. And that looks pretty nice and professional, doesn't it? Actually, I hate thick borders. Let's make a smaller one. Okay. Easy peasy. Any questions? Okay. So let's do something a little more complicated. Let's talk about the rules. So let's talk about the syntax. Now you'll see that when you cut and paste from Thinkorswim into Excel, it will give you that syntax. And the syntax are the instructions that create the output of the function. RTD is a function. The function has some inputs, and the inputs are, you just cut and paste this from Thinkorswim. They literally tell you the syntax to use to pull in those specific things. So you can just copy that or copy and paste those things. So let's, an example, I want the last price on Apple. I learned the last price syntax. You could probably Google all the syntax of the RTD function. It's much better just to do it this way and let this be your guide. Create what you want in Thinkorswim's market watch setting, and then copy and paste it here. And they will tell you what you do. So just copy and paste this. And there's my last price, done and done. Oh, but wait, this is IBM. I want it to be Apple. Okay, so let's change it to Apple. Perfect. Now it gives me Apple. But what if I wanted to change Apple, and I want to make this Meta? There's no connection between these two. So this last line, right, and this variable that you pass, you can actually reference a cell just like so. So delete that text. And now you can pass whatever's in range A5 into that function. And now you can change your ticker and get the last price. Every time it updates, it'll pop right back up. There it is for Meta. If I want to change this to say, I don't know, JP Morgan, it will now pull the last price for JP Morgan. Want to change that to S&P futures, then S&P futures I would put in here. Now note that with most stock tickers, it's just the ticker. It's that easy. But with futures, it's slightly different because futures aren't just one thing, right? Apple is one stock. It's one thing. But futures have contract codes and expiration months and all kinds of other things. So you can't just type in /ES. Even though Thinkorswim, you type in /ES, right, into your chart, it'll bring up the ES continuous contract of futures. But the thing is that there's a little bit more information that this actually needs so that if I just put this in on /ES, it's going to say NA. There's no such thing as /ES in the syntax for RTD. So how would I know what ticker it needs? Well, I would, again, go back to my market watch, and I would just put that ticker that I want /ES and hit enter. If I zoom in right here, you'll see that same thing. Oops, I cut it off, but that's I just hit /ES and then hit enter. And then it populated like this. And then I'll just go here and see what it passes to that function. You see that? It's not /ES, it's actually /EX:*X CME. This is the CME exchange Oops. So I'm just going to take everything in these quotes and copy that. And instead, I'm going to make it exactly like it says there. And again, I'm going to reference that range from the function and pull that data there. So you might have thought you had to be a super sophisticated programmer, right, to create code. I've been programming since I was 12, but this stuff is pretty simple. It's Thinkorswim literally tells you how to do it. You don't have to be super sophisticated to come in here and infinitely create things for yourself. So now I have a last price brought in for S&P futures. And every time this updates, it looks like it's updating every 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Looks like every 2 to 4 seconds. Looks like it's updating on a schedule. Now, one thing to note is that you can only pull in so much data with RTD before Thinkorswim locks you out. This is just the thing. There's a max amount of data you can pull. So just note, if you start to pull in a large enough set of data, again, small things like this will never trigger it. You'll leave your spreadsheet open, it'll work all day. But at some point, it may look like it's not updating or things aren't working. Every once in a while, Thinkorswim will cut you off and no more data will pass through RTD function. How do you remedy that? It's very simple. So if you notice that your thing is not updating, an example is if you pull in bad data, say that I'm creating like a bot that's going to pull in all the options data for something, okay? And again, talking about how you make this into a bot is the next step. But pulling in all this information to put it in here, say that I type in a wrong date and we start, trying to pull in all this bad data and all of a sudden nothing's updating. You actually do get locked out. Thinkorswim only passes a large enough or a certain distance forward of data. All you have to do is close all of your instances of Excel, not even just the open one. You must reset that RTD add-in. So close all of the open Excel files you have. Save them first, then close them all. Then close Thinkorswim all the way down. Open your Excel file back up. Correct your mistake before you open Thinkorswim. And then open Thinkorswim next, and your data should populate. So if you ever realize this is not updating, close them in that order. Save and close Excel, Thinkorswim, all Excel files that are open. All Excel instances that are open, close all of them. Now, if you have 5 spreadsheets open, I don't care if it doesn't have RTD in it, close them all down, then close Thinkorswim, then open Excel back up, correct your mistakes, then open Thinkorswim back up. And when minute Thinkorswim opens back up and it starts populating again, you see these updates, you're back up and go and running. Everyone got that? Okay. So, you want to make a DD bands, rule, clearly you have the last price. You're going to need your risk interval, right? And so we can just type it in. We know what it is. This is a manual entry. And again, good practice. Let's go ahead and make sure that we note to ourselves that it's an input field, right? Just like so. And note to self, let's go ahead and, gray those guys out to know that it is a, and let's just delete this JP Morgan. And so the way that I like to do it, and we'll say is the 4 p.m. close. Now there's a more complex way you can automate this, but that's a whole separate advanced class. It'll be part of just the Rocket Scooter courses. So this is not gonna be in the public one. Here's what we want you guys to check out really quick. Click that button very quickly. That's our extended trial we're doing right now. If you want to get in, we'll do more advanced courses on this throughout the rest of the trial. Okay, so today we'll just cover this, the 4 p.m. close. So what I'll do is, and this is 4 p.m. Central, so let's just, since everybody talks Eastern time, well, 5 p.m. Eastern close, okay? And it's always good practice when programming to very accurately label stuff, to teach yourself that when you revisit this months or years later, you'll never have to revisit something. So always be very specific on, and I'll wrap the text so I can create like, you know, there you go. Perfect. Okay. So I just labeled them so I know it's coming close. So at the 5 p.m. Eastern close, and I just manually have to copy and paste from here to here at the time the market's closed. There is no close price in futures that's accurate, not the last traded price at 5 p.m. So that is the rule for the DD band. We take that rule and we put it here. So what I'll do is I'll just copy the last value once the futures market is halted for that hour. And then I'll just do Control V, but I won't paste the equation. Anytime you copy and paste, if your settings are that way, it's going to paste the equation, not the value. So anytime you paste something in Excel, you get this little drop down for paste options. I'm going to click that and go down to paste values, and I'm going to paste the number and the actual just number and value itself and the formatting. So the last value it has, it's just going to paste a static number there. And now I can do this. Easy as that. That's going to equal to that value plus that. That's going to equal to that value minus that. And there you go. So remember, this number is fixed, and that's the number that both of these cells are referencing. As the ES price is updating when markets are open, I still have my same reference price that I cut and paste. Now you can use, like if you want to go a little bit deeper into coding, this isn't a coding class, you can go and do forms, right? You can go in and create a macro and create a button, and the button can say, you know, the macro can run only at a certain time and grab this value and spit the output there so that you go and just, when markets are closed, run the macro and just let it sit there. And the macro will automatically copy this value to there to give you that last value. Or you can be a little more detailed, is you can go write a script inside of Thinkorswim that does the same thing to create an output here, which is one of the things that we did. You can create an output here that is that equation that you create that 4 p.m. futures price, or after 4 p.m. when the futures market is closed. So then you can just automatically spit out the code from Thinkorswim. Either way, you need to write some code, whether you write it in Thinkorswim and spit it out via RTD, or you write it in Excel in Visual Basic for Applications, VBA, and then run a macro to spit it out here, or you swing to the lazy man method. Just go in there once a day and cut and paste and drop it in here, and you're done. Automatically have your DD bands. Now, again, this isn't the real DD band. This is just arbitrarily off of the current time I cut and paste this. But I'm going to go back to Thinkorswim and just kind of highlight where that is, just for the sake of this example. So you ever want to know what the value is, just go back to where you close. This is this dashed line in futures for ES, and I'm going to put my mouse right there. And that looks like it says 39.9825, round to the nearest tick. Okay. Again, 39.9825. And there's your DD bands for the day. And you'd have to update your risk interval clearly when it updates and manually type that in. If I made this 50, the bands would change. Now let's convert that to SPY, right? And we know SPY is going to change in real time, but we're going to do the same function, right? SPY will have a last price. So we're just going to copy and paste that function. And now SPY is going to come up with the last price. And from here, I'm just going to, trim this down with these buttons up here, which change the precision of a decimal. So I really don't need to see all that data from SPY. I don't need to see, I'm just going to make it nice and clean. So I change that position to 1 decimal point. And I'm going to insert a cell right below SPY and call it ratio, right? So I want to move everything over. I can either go here and do right click insert, right? And that will scoot everything over. Or even easier is you can grab something and do Control X for cut, drop your reference cell to repaste it, and boom, you're done. Okay, let's make something called ratio. Again, just like so. It doesn't apply here because we're not doing a ratio for that, but we see what the ratio between the SPY and ES is for the conversion. Now we're going to do a conversion, right? ratio for futures conversion, right? And let's just kind of give it like a little bit more, change the width on all the cells, make it nice and clean. Okay, now get like that, and make these guys slightly smaller. Okay, perfect. So here's the ratio, equals that divided by that. And that's the real-time ratio that you have of the S&P. And let's just kind of change those precision, center that, and boom. That's the real-time ratio of the S&P and the ES. As you see, that ratio is never perfectly 10, 10.01. Sometimes it'll be 9.99, 9.95. The fact that it changes means that your fixed DD number, remember, this is fixed off of a fixed number here. So your DD for futures is not going to change. DD for futures, then equities conversion. If this is changing, then your equities conversion will change. Anytime that you change anything from a static number to a number that's dynamic, dynamic means non-static, means it moves, then the conversion will always change. So now, in a quick cross multiplication, you want to convert your static DD number to some kind of equities conversion to draw on your chart. Well, you just did this ratio right here, and you can take equals DD upper and divide it by the ratio. And now you have a SPY equivalent DD. Easy as that. Let's make it nice and pretty. And since we want to make sure that we take the same equation and put it there, we need to cross it over. But since we're referencing a cell, as you know, in Excel, you need to lock that cell's position as we're dragging this to the right. I need to go before C and put a little dollar sign. Means that I lock this column in the reference. And if I want to lock the entire range, which means I always reference C6, I put a dollar in front of 6. That locks the row, locks the column in the reference, and that's easy as that. That didn't change the output, but that tells me when I drag the equation over, this still references that same cell, that same range. And now I have a futures equities conversion DD in real time. You can keep this guy right next to you on the side, and every single time you are trading, you now know where DD will be as you are watching it on your chart. Now, before we have futures data, you're going to convert to ETFs on your own and have it sitting there. When we have futures data, you will know that the DD bands will move around because they do move around. You can actually watch that move around. Let's sit right here. It just moved by a penny. Right? You see it moving? It just moved by 3 pennies. They dance around. So as you're watching your trading, right, SPY, for instance, and you want your DD bands on the chart, in reality, they're going to dance around. Like it's already like 402, what was it, 402.13? 4019, sorry, 402 right now. So right now it's sitting here. And as you see, it was bouncing around a couple of pennies. Your DD bands on SPY are actually going to move because that ratio is changing. Do y'all understand that? Type yes if you get it. Because you're converting from something that's not the same. SPY and S&P futures they look the same. They track each other, but they're going to be slightly different because one's going to trade faster than the other sometimes. So your DD bands will definitely move around in the conversion while they're fixed in futures. So in future versions of Rocket Scooter, we don't want you to stare at moving bands all day long. So we're going to actually have them sit there flat and not move until you start getting close to them. We're going to write some tolerance that they start moving when you're close to it. So imagine that the DD band is right here, right? The lower one. I'm just going to example. And we're or imagine that it's here. Actually, let me just use the lower one. We're so far enough away from it, we don't want you to kind of stare at moving numbers, right? So we're going to leave them anchored. But when the price gets close enough to it, we're going to write some logic in the back end of Rocket Scooter that will start allowing these bands to fluctuate once you get close to them. So the fluctuation allowance, meaning that how much it needs to change for it to move and reposition, or how often it repositions, will change based on how close you are to it. I'm going to have the DD bands update once a minute when you're perfectly in between them. So once a minute, DD band will shift. Once a minute, it'll shift. So it's not just moving in real time, but when you are closer to it, maybe halfway down, every 10 seconds, it'll move. And when you're close to it, every tick it will move. So it'll start moving when you're close to it so that you can actually aim landing that plane on that aircraft carrier while both things are moving in space. But really, when the aircraft carrier is really far away, you don't need to care about those little micro adjustments you need to make. You're just aiming towards it. So the trick that we're going to do, and I can also teach you how to do that as well when I write a macro in a more advanced course on how to write macros in Excel, to do that same logic here. You want to see what your real-time DD band is? Just leave your spreadsheet open on the side. When you're getting close to DD band, come here and reference where it exactly is. Oh, it's 396.11 now. Oh, okay. But instead of you just constantly shuffling this around, you wouldn't want to change this every update, like while it's that far away. Just think about what you would do as a human. I wouldn't want to change this every update. That's silly. I'm only going to care when I'm close to it. So that's basically how it's going to be in the back end. Do you guys have any questions on this so far? Okay. So that's how you'll use the RTD function in Excel with that RTD add-in to bring data from Thinkorswim. Somebody asked, if you don't have that RTD add-in, how do you get it? It should automatically go in, but what you need to do is make sure you go to your permission settings under the options in your general settings in Excel and make sure that you allow third-party add-ins and don't block future add-ins and things like that, or even Google tutorials on how to debottleneck that. Older versions of Excel, it always automatically added. Newer versions of Excel, Microsoft, as the years go by, add all these security settings that are very much unnecessary. Well, they keep you from opening somebody's random spreadsheet that might have, code in it that opens a backdoor to your computer. They make sure natively Excel typically blocks different add-ins and third-party add-ins, but you should be able to add it from a list by going to your Excel options. Let's find where I have just one random one open. Options. You'll go to like the Trust Center, make sure your Trust Center settings are set a certain way. Add-ins, you can go manage your add-ins at the bottom by clicking go. You can make sure that you have an add-in added to it. I don't think the RTD adds manually. It should be automatic, but if it's being blocked, just check your security settings that don't block add-ins, basically. Can you do this with Google Sheets? No, you can't. Unfortunately, Google Sheets does not have a function on your desktop to create a live data feed because that is done locally from your open instances of your two browsers, or your platform and your Excel. That's done locally in your machine. Google Sheets exists in the cloud. It'd have to open a data connection to the cloud. And unfortunately, Google Sheets does not have that functionality. Do you want this to be in a Google Sheet? How do you get Thinkorswim to talk to a Google Sheet? It's currently not possible. Would love to have that though. But you can save Google Sheet. You can save Excel spreadsheets in the cloud. So if I click save right now, and I have this saved in the cloud, for instance, right? It's saved into your, whatever it's called, OneDrive, right? Your Microsoft OneDrive, it'll save it there. Through OneDrive, anything saved in the cloud, now you get into the bot creation portion, which is webhooks. You can go find any type of integration, like cloud-based integration service that deals with webhooks. And like I do when I write bots, I can retrieve data from the cloud to create the bots that update the Discord. So you can save, for instance, this spreadsheet. Instead of saving it on your hard drive, you can save it in your OneDrive, which saves it in the cloud. Anything saved in the cloud, these cloud accessibility services that do integrations, you can create an integration that anytime this cell changes in my Excel sheet, trigger Dino bot to send a webhook to Discord that prints a text statement that says this is the number. So creating bots with those integration services is an advanced class. Again, those of you that join the actual program, we will have classes on how to do that, how to create your own bot for your Discord. Very easy to do once you know how to do it. The public class, not going to go over all of that, but it's just a taste of what we're doing. Okay, cool.